What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're tackling some r/PettyRevenge. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe and maybe that notification bell too, as it truly does help out our channel. And a huge thank you to the members of our channel. You are truly appreciated. And I can't believe there's another member to our channel, Queen Woofy 2K9. What are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. You are truly appreciated. God, you guys are insane lately. I love you to bits. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's stories before I get all tearful. Much love, guys. Our first story comes from Katakiz's. I think I butchered that name completely. Didn't say her name to her boss, but this happened years ago. My then husband had a girlfriend that I knew. She worked next door to him at the Way of the Subway, if anyone's wondering. I was pretty good friends with everyone that worked there, especially her boss. So after I threw him out for having said girlfriend, I decided to let her know how I felt. I went up to the sandwich shop and found my good friend. While the girlfriend made my sandwich, standing right beside her boss, I tearfully told the whole story to the boss, standing next to the girlfriend, making my sandwich. I told every detail except her identity, right down to how upset our kids were and what I thought about people who go after married men, and the married men who cheat and break up their family. Boss lady said all the right things. How could he? What kind of woman is okay with doing that? What she thought of this unnamed woman and so on. The other workers I was friends with chimed in too. The other woman was much disparaged by all, and she couldn't say anything because she didn't want everyone to know it was her. And you know what? I got the sandwich for free too. How awkward must that person felt just standing there and knowing it's all about her. Oh my word. Now this is a classy way to get revenge back at someone, right? She could have went in there screaming, but no, she made the person just physically squirm inside. Well played to you, OP. Well played. We have another short story from Might Be a Sim. Currently enjoying the pettiest revenge. My brother has lived with my husband and I for a couple of years now, but recently moved in with one of his friends. That was fine, but we had arranged for him to have a cell phone while he lived with us, and it was agreed he would give it back. He almost immediately stopped answering our texts or calls and even stood us up by saying he would come over to get the rest of his things and leave the phone, but then never showed up. This resulted in us starting a new billing cycle, so we now have to pay for an additional month of service for that phone. This lasted about a week and he finally did bring the phone back and picked up most of his belongings, leaving behind garbage and junk that my husband and I had to clean up. The revenge started today when he realised he needed paperwork that he left at my house to open a bank account. He even had the audacity to tell me he needed it within the hour. It's looking like a whole lot of not my problem. Maybe I'll feel like answering those calls and texts tomorrow when I finish cleaning up this room he trashed. A comment below said, "This is my favourite line I learned in the workforce. Your inability to prepare does not constitute an emergency on my behalf." And there you go. So true. Our next story is from Labyrinth Black. Don't call me a bitch. So this happened about 6 months ago. I used to work at a Chili's as a takeout person and it's probably one of the worst jobs I've ever had to this day. When you order online, you can choose between coming inside to pick up your food or you can have us run the food out to your car. We call this curbside service. When you have a curbside order, it gives you extreme info about the person's car for our safety. Anyway, one night the online system was super backed up and I had dozens of orders to prepare. I had several notifications for curbside pickup, along with people waiting inside for their orders. I decided to run outside and let all of my customers know that their food would be ready shortly. Rightfully so, this pissed people off, but one guy was especially mad. I told him it would probably be about 15 minutes. His food ended up taking 20 minutes. I brought his food out to him and he was heated. He said I brought his food out way too late and proceeded to make rude comments towards me. I don't know how to keep my mouth shut, so of course, I explained that the kitchen was backed up. He said he didn't care about my bullshit excuses and started yelling about how I was rude. I told him he was rude and then he said, "You're quite the little bitch." At this point I was furious and I told him he can kiss my ass and he peeled out the parking lot. This was followed by a loud screech of brakes and a horn honking. Our Chili's was in a busy shopping complex, so I didn't think much of it. 20 minutes later, the cops come in and ask if a blue lifted Chevy pickup truck was in our parking lot. It was him! I remember seeing his car and thinking it was the epitome of a douchebag car. I still had the receipt which gives us the license plate number, full name of the driver, the make, model and year of the car. They told me I'd solved a hit and run. Imagine how their OP felt when she knew it was him. How satisfying that would have been to send the cops his way after being such a dick. Why do people do this, like, to fast food employees? I mean, come on. They don't get paid enough for that shit. I know some fast food employees get paid pretty well, but some don't, and they certainly don't deserve abuse from knobheads, you know. Our next story comes from Ace2112. If I can't sleep, then neither will you. My work as a merchant seaman takes me into some very interesting places, situations and personal interactions. This is one of them. A research vessel I was working on had what you might call a blended crew. Some of us Civmars, some of us government employees. Being a rather small ship, quarters were a bit tight, so we had to make adjustments when it came to sleep hours and quiet zones. One group of 8 couldn't quite get with the program. My berthing was 15 feet away from the lounge, so every conversation, every slam of the door would wake me up. We tried WD-40 on the door, rehanging the door, still the slamming continued. Next was to extend the night watch to use the other entrance and exit to the lounge. That coincidentally had no sleeping quarters right outside the door. That also didn't faze them. This went on for about a week from midnight to 4 AM. This was when the creative solution came to me. Since I was going to be up in the middle of my rest period and only getting 4 hours of sleep, I figured it would only be fair if I got some of that sleep time lost back. So, after I talked to their boss, in which he agreed, I was given those 8 youngsters for an 8-hour shift. We figured that would cover my sleep and press home the lessons of respect the spaces. The solution? They got to spend an 8-hour shift with a grumpy, sleep-deprived, old bastard during his work day. All while losing sleep as my work schedule just happened to coincide with their sleep time. Lots of stainless steel got polished that day. After that, nary a peep out of the mid-watch. You old sea dog. To be fair though, if I was only getting 4 hours sleep and people weren't being respectful of that, I'd be well pissed off. The next story is from Sir Moric 3. My mum decided that a bin bag wasn't necessary. The title sounds a bit weird. I think that this story fits here perfectly. So a bit of background, my mum and I, male 17, live alone and get along really well. I honestly can't remember the last time we fought. We split chores and we do things as soon as they need to be done. However, there is something, a tiny little thing, that really messes with me. When my mum takes out the trash, she doesn't put a new garbage bag in the bin. It really messes up my day sometimes, because I cook a lot and our bin is rather tiny. Furthermore, she takes out the trash often since she wakes up before me. So last Friday, I got ready to stay with my father for the weekend when my mum called me and said that she wanted to make some cheesecake and please take the trash out. At that moment, it just clicked. Yesterday evening, my mother told me that she now understands why I'm so annoyed when she doesn't put a new garbage bag in the trash can. It just so happens that right after she got home, she started to bake. After she was done, she took all the leftover things and threw them in the trash. All the slimy eggshells, the quark, curd cheese, and some flour and milk that missed the bowl, landing right in the clean shiny plastic shell of the bin. She said that she spent at least half an hour cleaning our bin and that she, from now on forward, will always put a new bin bag in the bin. Sweet victory. And then there was a whole bunch of wholesome Redditors posting comments below, saying stuff like, your mum sounds like a great mum, actually admitting that she was in the wrong and letting you know as well. And then the OP replies, she really is a great mum and does everything in her power to support me, followed by Bernard, who says, tell her now. And I totally agree. If you've got a great parent out there, a great relative, anyone that you love, tell them now. Life is too short. So go and tell them right now. For me. Do it for me. Our next story is from Manically Grinning. I was the disabled parking Grinch. Hi y'all. This was years ago, at Christmas time at Target. I'd just given birth to my daughter and ran to the store to get diapers, and a moment of peace. I parked in BF Egypt, walked past a zillion cars and saw a woman slowly driving past all the full disabled spots. She is almost in tears, so I walk up and ask if she's okay. She explodes in tears saying she is in a wheelchair and needs a disabled spot, but they are all taken by folks who don't have disabled placards. I see a spot about to open up and I hold it for her. She parks, thanks me, and I go into the store to tell them about the illegal disabled parking. The Target lady says, yep, happens all the time. She makes an announcement to the store asking folks to move their cars. I ask if I can use her phone. I call the police. Our city is large, but I swear the cops are bored, so if you make a call, they send everyone. I say, hi, it's OP calling from Target. We have 18 disabled spaces, and only one has a legal placard. Can you rustle up some officers and fix this? Literally, 8 minutes later, about 20 cops and at least 20 tow trucks were at Target, and it was like a ballet. I've never seen tow trucks hook up and drive away so quickly in complete synchronicity. Within about 20 minutes, all the cars were gone, and there were cops standing in front of the disabled spots. After getting the stuff I needed, and some Christmas candy, because candy, I was walking back to my car. I saw what the cops were doing. When someone came with their baskets full of bags, searching for their car, an officer would call out, "Who has the 92 yellow Sentra?" The illegal parkers would be directed to an officer, given a $345 ticket and address of the impound place, and each cop said, "Merry Christmas" to them. Ouch. Now I know it was a dick move to do this at the holidays, but at the time I weighed the rudeness of folks illegally parking in necessary disabled spots because folks think I'm just popping in for a minute or some other lame ableist thought against the true need that a disabled driver has. Just an extra tidbit, both of my kids are now adults and both are disabled. Prior to this incident, I'd never thought much of being disabled. Now I'm a full-time advocate for the disabled. I personally don't think it's a dick move in the slightest. Two people in the wrong here, obviously the people parking their goddamn cars, and Target. They're supplying those spots, they should be monitoring them as well. And it must be just so hard for someone in a wheelchair. They can't go to a standard space because they can't get out of their car because of the wheelchair and things like that. And then for people to be parking in those spots, what a piece of shit, man. What do you guys think of that story? Let me know in the comments below. Our next story comes from Machete Hands. Tricked a bunch of kids into hitting an ant's nest and unleashed huge red ants on themselves. We live in a rural part of the city. My mum has a pretty good green thumb. Our house is surrounded by flowering hedges and lots of trees. My mum makes compost out of kitchen waste so that we don't use any pesticides, so we have a lot of bugs and worms in our garden. There are a bunch of kids who smack the hedges and low-lying tree branches with a stick as they pass by our house. My mum has told the kids politely a couple of times to not do that because it hurts for her to see her garden getting ruined. Now I know that these kids are a bunch of dipshits who don't care about how my mum feels. I also know that they are extremely competitive. So there is this one tree at the corner of the road that is infested with weaver ants. These ants are huge red ones that can give a nasty bite. I challenged these kids to see who can jump the highest and hit a branch of this particular tree. They promptly stood under it and started jumping and waving sticks like maniacs. One of them accidentally hits the ant's nest. Ants started raining on them on cue. It felt so good to see these little shits shriek and run in terror upon realising what they unleashed on themselves. Their scream, pure music to my ears. Needless to say, they weren't found destroying my mum's hedges anymore. You fucking mad lad. I briefly looked up weaver ants straight after this, and they actually spray formic acid when they bite as well, so that would have been a horrible bite. Oh man. Our next story is from Disgruntled Veteran. Why my grandfather dropped out of high school. So this story belongs to my grandfather. RIP. So when my grandfather was growing up, he was raised Catholic. He ended up going to a Catholic high school where the priest/principal would punish students harshly. His favourite punishment was to make a student grab their ankles and he'd hit the student on the back of their knees with a yardstick. If the student fell over, they had to do it again. So my grandfather was a junior in high school and he was a bit of a smarts, and I loved him for it. He one day was walking down the hallway and the priest saw him. He asked for a hall pass, but my grandfather didn't have one. The priest told my grandfather to assume the position, to get hit on the back of the knees. My grandfather looked him in the eyes and told him that if the priest hit him, he'd hit the priest right back. My grandfather then assumed the position, and sure enough, the priest hit him. My grandfather then stood up and punched the priest in the face. He told the priest he was done and left the school and church forever. It may not have been a major victory, but I'm sure it felt good. Now I'm one who hates sort of like punishment like that. I don't think there's any place for it in any school. I know it's old. This used to happen all the time, but I can't advocate that kind of behavior that people do that. It's sadistic for someone to do that. If they fall over, they're going to get hit on the back of the knees again. What does that teach them? It doesn't teach them nothing, apart from there's some dirty old priest smacking someone on the back of the knees and they're enjoying it. Yeah, arsehole. And I know we've got some older generation, no offense to you of course, within our channel. Did you ever go through any of these like sort of punishments that schools used to give people? Let us know in the comments below and what you might have went through. Anyway guys, thank you for being here today. If you did enjoy the content, there is another video on your screen right now, and as always, if you click that video, it will tell YouTube you like this content. You're moving on to some more. And it will suggest it to other people too. Thank you for being here as always. The time out of your day is truly appreciated, and much love to you. You have a great day now. Goodbye.